Hello, I'm Max Jalilovich and you're watching the news from Kazakhstan. Attorneys in the case of Zhanaozen violence insist the policemen mentioned in the cases as victims should give their testimonies during the trial. In total, there are 33 officers, 15 of whom confirmed their testimonies and petitioned to hear the case without their participation. So far, only one policeman who was hit in the eye was questioned during the hearing. He, however, withdrew his claim to the defendants since he did not recognize them. Meanwhile, other victims continue to retract their claims. One entrepreneur revealed yesterday that she was forced to ask for a compensation by the city administration, although she also withdrew her claim after learning the blame was placed on the oil field workers. The damage, estimated at over $26,000 includes computers and other equipment. In essence, it's their property. Therefore, on behalf of the trade union, we decided not to lay financial claims. It seemed the problem was solved. After all, it was more of an internal issue about who will compensate what to whom and when. However, since the beginning of the trial over Zhanaozen case on March 27, a couple dozens of victims withdrew their claims towards the defendants. We have witnessed how some entrepreneurs who have indeed incurred property losses kept withdrawing their claims, saying these guys are not to blame. This says a lot about this case, and for me personally, it means that the defendants are not really the ones responsible for the looting. Human rights expert from Astana, Alibek Bayneshev, had organized his own press briefing in which made his comments over the Zhanaozen trial. Bayneshev never been in the town where a conflict took place, but made his conclusions through the press materials. They actually know each other well. These are the young men, not really wealthy, so to say, so the entrepreneurs fear they won't collect compensations from them. Initially, the case over Zhanaozen riots involved about 100 victims, 45 witnesses and 37 defendants. The BTA bank had estimated its damage at around $400,000. The city administration loss was valued at $750,000, while Ozynmunaygaz claims $7 million. Individual entrepreneurs ask for smaller compensations. Now the list of the property damage claims is shortening every day. However, it's not yet clear whether or not it may influence the final verdict somehow. Petitions from Zhanaozen case attorneys regarding the privileged position of one of the defendants, Tantar Kaliyev, were finally accepted by the judge. Since the beginning of the trial, attorneys asked the judge to explain why Kaliyev is kept separately from the rest of the defendants surrounded by prosecutors and demanded to restore equal rights for all of the accused.
Attorney Gulnara Zhuaspayeva has already appealed to the judge twice and even filed a petition. Finally, she received a reply which states that defendant Tantar Kaliyev have made an appeal and is now under the court's protection as a case witness. Nevertheless, Kaliyev said that he is ready to join his colleagues in the isolated room and he's not afraid of anything. According to the indictment, the main case is built around Kaliyev's testimonies, and the human rights activists believe that this is the reason why he is isolated from the rest of the accused. After examining case materials and compiling the defense plan, we included him to the list of accused, which means that the charges against our clients are based on these testimonies. This is very important since we have not seen other evidence so far.
Gali Magaleyev, a member of the International Committee Zhanaozen 2011, shared his opinion about the trial after visiting Aktau last week. Agaleyev believes the fairness of the trial is questionable, since main witnesses on the case are all policemen who are directly dependent from their superiors. The human rights expert agreed with the defendants' attorneys who filed petitions asking for anonymous witnesses to testify openly, as such testimonies may raise suspicions in the fairness of the trial. Only police officers can be subjected to Article 100 under these circumstances, but others who are anonymously testifying, their lives are not at risk or anything. Moreover, it could only help to achieve more objective outcome of the trial if they came openly in the courtroom and testified there. Furthermore, no testimonies in absentia must be accepted, therefore the lawyers' petitions are very appropriate. Pavlodar police force that was summoned in Zhanaozen for enforcement will be paid by the end of the month. The expenses will be covered from the regional budget.
A week ago, user Gulnar visited the block of the MIE minister Kalmuhammed Kasimov and left a message saying that Pavlodar policemen are not paid their per diems and bonuses for the work trip to the Mangistau region. Yesterday, the regional MIE department promised to pay the policemen before the end of April. According to the DIA representatives, the money will be taken from the regional treasury. All the travel allowances for the policemen who have secured the order in Zhanaozen will be paid in April of this year out of the local budget.
The incident in Kızılar'da Regional Trade Union House is a provocation, says BIS Company Director General Dildahan Akhmetov. He believes the recent heated debate involving Petro-Kazakhstan Trade Union representative is nothing but a case of defamation. Petro-Kazakhstan Trade Union movement leader Elusin Dusenov was setting the tone at the meeting, which was set up as an attempt to gather all the interested parties in regards to Kızılar'da company BIS, closing down as a result of losing a tender to the Chinese enterprise Petro-Kazakhstan. Logically, Kairat Amandikov, the deputy chairman at Kazakhstan Trade Union Federation, was supposed to take lead at the meeting. Regional MPs specifically requested his presence, and Amandikov was delegated with the task of gathering as much information as possible about BIS service company, as well as investigating the reasons for the company's closing down. It happened despite the fact that it owned dozens of special vehicles, employed trained personnel, and had a base for transporting hazardous cargo. Nevertheless, the trade union activist from Astana was given only the role of a peacemaker. Don't speak bluntly, we'd better calm down. Let us not make things even worse, otherwise even this day will seem like a paradise. The speech of Director General at BIS Dildahan Akhmetov about the unfair tender and the consequences his company had to suffer was continuously interrupted by the Petro-Kazakhstan Trade Union leader Elusin Dusenov, who accused Akhmetov of sticking too hard to his principles. The advice of the trade union leader to cut the costs and pay them 170 detonated the already tense meeting. What do you mean to cut costs? What are you talking about? I've cut all I could already. Diesel oil, spare parts and tires are already free. I'm ready to cut costs, but what is there left to cut? Maybe I should provide food for the people only once a day and keep them hungry. What are you talking about? All expenses are accounted for. Every single penny is calculated. Why are you irritating us for no reason? Everything has been thoroughly calculated, even soup and milk. It's all included there in the amount. Stop behaving like this. Stop shouting and slamming your fists on the table. We are also concerned about these guys. Your actions got us into this situation. You never protected anyone as a trade union. You've been working in Petro-Kazakhstan Trade Union for 10 years already, and never once did you stand up for anyone's rights. You never supported anyone on the trade union's behalf, and you don't deserve to be a trade union. As a trade union, we can go on listening to these pleads and fleeing sorry for this with all our hearts, but we simply cannot do anything about it. We don't have the strings we can pull here. The only thing we can do is to try to find out a way to resolve this in order to prevent 750 people from losing their jobs. The salary of Chinese workers is up to $72,000. They might do nothing but work in Kumkol. I know many facts like this one, and I'm going to turn them into the General Prosecutor's office. Don't I know who is behind them? I'm going to share those facts with the press. Everything I sent to the front office remains in the folders. I know they have a lot of people supporting them. I know that men of power are behind them. It's been 37 days and not one person approached us, so I'm starting to lose hope. That's why we'll have to get this issue on TV in order to show what those people are doing in this region. The heated debate in Kızılar'da Trade Union's office did not resolve anything. The trade union activist from Astana had to be satisfied with the little he had and ask those present to gather again in the future. You have seen it yourself. It ended with the motions and mutual accusations. We'll be looking into the situation for the next 2 or 3 days, and we have arranged to meet again with the companies. We will study all of the documents, weigh all the pros and cons. We are the Trade Union Federation, you are workers' rights advocates. We stand for the workers' labor rights and their social and economic interests. But Kızılar'da businessman is already losing the last of his optimism. The letter he sent to the president administration in the nation's leader name a month ago was rejected. Representative of Kızılar'da Regional Prosecution Office commented on the situation around BIS. Prosecutor's senior assistant voiced his position regarding the tender organized by Petro-Kazakhstan. After investigating the issue for 20 days, it was revealed yesterday that the tender was indeed held with violations.
In general, as was revealed by the prosecutor's investigation, all the documents of potential participants of the tender did not correspond to the requirements of the bid. Despite of that, Kazakhstan approved these companies as appropriate to all the required conditions. As a result, the Regional Prosecution Office sent a note to the management of Kazakhstan that illegal actions should be prevented during tenders.
Meanwhile, the government is talking about the imminent rise of fuel prices. Sources inside the oil and gas ministry believe gas prices will start to grow in Russia immediately following Vladimir Putin's inauguration as president. Consequently, this will affect the entire customs union, including Kazakhstan. Another rise is expected for electricity rates, while local farmers already have to pay the recently introduced controversial manure tax. The head of the anti-monopoly department gave his comments on the latest news about the rise of electricity rates in the brightly lit lobby of the government house, saying that it is a forced measure. Apparently, someone has to pay for the power grid deterioration and produces losses. The incurred expenses mainly fall within power grid companies, and supply losses constitute minor part. Therefore, electricity power rates will be increased by 3 to 11% at the average, depending on the region. Following in Russia's footsteps, fuel costs in Kazakhstan may soon exceed the critical level of $1 per liter. It may happen in the nearest future after the inauguration of the Russian president. We are importing goods from Russia, and the cost increase is inevitable for imported products. The population of Kazakhstan are forced to pay more not only for fuel and electricity, but even for domestic animal bio-waste. The government already imposed a farm tax for manure. I am trying to hold off 2 million people from coming to the Ministry of Agriculture and throwing manure all over it. People talk about this for a long time now. They are quite serious about it. I don't think there is any reason or practicality in this. Officials explain that the tax itself is not that big. Supposedly $10 per ton of animal excrement should not mess up farming business. Instead, the treasury will get extra money for the improvement of the environmental situation. In fact, the environmental impact from manure was the main argument of the government to introduce the tax. But farmers do not give up and say that manure is a fertilizer, so officials may just process and sell it if they really need money. A well-known human rights activist, Talas Sagimbayev, has addressed another petition to the head of state. This time, Sagimbayev asks the president to look into embezzlement case in the Akmala region, reported during the construction of facilities in accordance with the president's project, 100 schools and 100 hospitals.
The notorious human rights activists placed the blame on the former regional authorities, in particular Sergei Dyachenko, the ex-head of the local administration and now the vice speaker of the lower house. Supposedly, Dyachenko used his connections to give construction companies priority rights and then collecting kickbacks. Unfortunately, the human rights defender could not specify the exact amounts, only saying that all companies are documented and can be submitted to the relevant authorities if required. However, neither he nor his clients believe local authorities. Therefore, they appealed to the leader of the nation. Sergei Dyachenko, the ex-head of the local administration, got these money through fraud, and when entrepreneurs turned to Dyachenko asking for assistance in receiving additionally allocated funds, he promised to help in winning the bid but not insured funds.
Almaty hosted the second roundtable as part of preparation for the Assembly for the Future of Kazakhstan. The key discussion topic during the meeting once again was the country after Nazarbayev. Politician Jamarkhan Tuyakbay moderated the event. Contrary to expectations, Tuyakbay's party colleagues Amirjan Kosanov and Bulat Abilov did not attend the roundtable. This prompted analysts to raise the question whether there is a split within the party.
In the run-up to the National People's Congress, the second roundtable for analysts and social activists has taken place in Almaty. The organizers include well-respected experts Serik Balsin Abdildin, politician Baltash Tursumbayev and NSDP leader Jarmakhan Tuyakbay. It is notable that Social Democrats Amirjan Kosanov and Bulat Abilov are absent yet again. Currently, party members share different viewpoints regarding the process itself. Some uphold the position of further radicalization, others are ready for a compromise. However, there is no split in the party, it is still united. Various opinions and inner-party discussions as to which way to go and what strategy to hold to are definitely required. Behind the scenes, experts recollected a few more events the colleagues attended separately. On the last day of descent on March 24th, Amirjan Kosanov and Bulat Abilov flew to Mangistau region to pay tribute to the memory of those lost in the tragic events on December 16th. However, Jarmahan Tuyakbay did not attend a similar gathering in Almaty. Earlier, however, he addressed the first meeting devoted to the National People's Congress. To the political scientist Maxim Kaznachev, this appears to prove the assumption that the party, whose expansion through alliance of NSDP and Azad is still yet to be formally completed, faces a split into radical and moderate fractions. One wing holds up to the street policy, he says, while the other is seeking compromise with some of the inner elite Accordo groups. As far as I know, the party discipline inside Azad and SDP has become quite a concern. But unfortunately, the party has not announced any procedural acts or steps to address the problem so far. As far as I can judge from the party leaders attending different events, there are acute contradictions rising both in the ideological positioning of the party and its methods of work. Contradiction of views was emphasized during the meeting itself. The first discussion was devoted to refocusing from resource-based to agricultural economy. Then it went down to criticizing the Kazakhstan's form of governance. The speakers insisted that a transition from presidential regime would require constitutional adjustments, such as revising the presidential powers clause. It is also essential to revise the impeachment procedure. Conditions for releasing the head of state from his position must be well defined. Currently, they stipulate for treason. I think we should simplify and narrow that down to violation of the constitution. However, after the coffee break, the speaker's mood has shifted. They switched from discussing the post-Nazarbayev Kazakhstan to criticizing the upcoming National People's Congress that was supposed to be a dialogue venue rather than a convention of political groups and parties. The situation in the country is such that we are being suppressed, and we keep attending these elite gatherings and talking about bright future with flawless parliament and perfect government. But the main problem right now is overcoming the tyranny. The reason why the discussion turned out to be a talk about nothing is that there was no tip-off and call for action. There's no guide link or certain point to start from. When drawing up the results of the round table, the NSDP leader Jarmahan Tuyakbay mentioned that another expert discussion is on the way. Then the date and subject for the National People's Congress will finally be set. For now, the media and analysts are making forecasts for whether politician Amirjan Kasanov and Bulat Abilov will be among the attendees.
Yet another suspension for already suspended Communist Party was issued yesterday by the Kokshetau court. This time, the decision was made due to a publication by the Communist Party Akmala branch leader Sergei Ryzhov in one of the local newspapers. A similar verdict was announced less than a week ago in relation to another leader of the Communist Party branch, Lyudmila Gorbenko. A decree on the suspension of the party's activities for a half a year was issued without much consideration of the circumstances, including the fact that prosecution didn't provide a full set of documents, including the charter of the party, resolution of the Almaty Administrative Court, attorney's petition or witness testimonies. The decree also ignored the fact that the issue is not linked to an article, but rather a speech, or the fact that I didn't admit the fault. The wife of oppositionist Vladimir Kozlov decided to picket the Almaty office of the National Security Committee after receiving 15th rejection to see her imprisoned husband. Aliya Truzbekova had posted about her intentions on the social network today, saying that national security agents forced her to take such step by openly admitting they won't let her see her husband. Vladimir Kozlov, the leader of the Alga political party, which is still going through the registration process, had been arrested on January 23 with charges of inciting social hatred. Last time Aliya saw her husband on March 5 only because of Kozlov's unplanned surgery. According to the law, I have the right to see him 2 times a month, but all my claims have been rejected by the National Security Agency, explaining that I saw him once and that should be enough. Applying to the courts are also not bringing results, so I find it as the only way to get my message through the National Security Committee, in hope that in such a huge organization there must be at least one adequate person who realizes that their actions are illegal and so finally will let me see my husband. The staff of the newspaper Golos Respubliki received an official reply to the inquiry made to the National Security Committee regarding their colleague Danyar Moldashev. Apparently, he is no longer charged with inciting social hatred, but terrorism instead. Interrogations of the newspaper's journalists and publishers started last week following the statement of the prosecution office on the prevention of terrorist attacks in Almaty on March 24. Allegedly, they were conspired by the associates of exiled banker Mukhtar Ablazov. Daniel Moldashov disappeared after he was summoned for questioning, and the newspaper staff is now trying to locate his whereabouts.
There was some information that he's kept in a secret apartment, and then we were told that he was transferred somewhere else. Apparently, our publications make National Security Committee officials nervous, and consequently, they are constantly moving Moldashov from one location to another. We did receive calls from him that were seemingly made to quiet us down, since they bring no useful information apart from the fact that he's fine. When we call Danyar back, the number always appears unavailable.
Activists of Semi-Public Committee for the Protection of Political Prisoners call for Zhanaozen trial to be open and fair. Yesterday, they held a rally next to the city's courts building.
Besides their legal demands, public activists have also informed the residents about the latest statements of the Coalition for Democratic Forces Khalik Maydani, which say that another season of witch hunt is underway in Kazakhstan. The document also refutes extremist and terrorist accusations of Alga party members and other democratic community representatives.
Father of four, Marat Karipekov blames employees of a private maternity hospital in Karaganda for the death of his wife and baby. Karipekov says the hospital staff attempt to buy his silence after the tragedy and even involved local clergy to persuade the grieving man not to disturb the dead. 4 children have been left without a mother. The 40-year-old Ardakta Sagintayeva was expecting her 5th baby, and her pregnancy went without complications. She was admitted in Mayluduk Maternity Hospital, where she died while in labor, reportedly because of acute cardiac arrest. However, Sagintayeva's husband now blames medical personnel for negligence, believing that they failed to provide the necessary assistance in time, and the baby was removed only after woman's death. If it wasn't their fault, why would they offer the money? They offered me over $4,000. I have lost 2 of my loved ones, and they are throwing money at me. Once the criminal case was opened, they got quiet and flaked off like rats. The grieving husband submitted a complaint to the prosecution and posted a message in the blog of the healthcare minister. This resulted in an inspection of the private maternity clinic. Having analyzed the findings of the inspection, we concluded that there are violations of healthcare regulations, and that's why all the materials of the inspection have been submitted to the law enforcement agencies. Following the death of Ardakta Sagintayeva, a criminal case has been opened on charges of inadequate performance of professional duties, resulting in death. All the proper forensics have been arranged and investigation procedures in progress in order to provide the necessary evidence. A few years ago, a 25-year-old Aliftina Abisheva and her baby lost their lives while in labor in this very maternity center. The family of the deceased had brought the case to broad publicity. They went through all circles of hell trying to bring a maternity unit employee to justice. The struggle even claimed the life of Aliftina's brother, whose heart failed to stand the stress. 2 children had been orphaned in that family. Marat Karipekov, in his complaint to the head of the healthcare ministry, refers to that outrageous case as well. Kids in a kindergarten of the Chernoretsk village of the Pavlodar region were fed only tea and bread for several months, despite all attempts of their parents to help kindergarten financially. The money seemed to simply disappear, and when the local prosecution got involved in the case, it was shocked to find numerous violations in the facility's operation.
The cafeteria menu of Chernoretska village kindergarten is quite poor lately. It includes only bread and tea. No one knows where did the food for children go. Nevertheless, kindergarten refrigerators were empty for already some time. Reporters learned about it from unhappy parents. Breakfast menu included porridge, corn, bread and butter, and tea with milk. Soup, juice, bread and roast meat were planned for lunch and so on. But we found out that there was only bread and butter available. After parents learned about the food problems in the nursery, they decided to pay for the catering on their own. The collected money was given to the kindergarten principal, but children still saw no food, while the money disappeared somewhere as well. The staff claims they were deceived as well, and it appeared that no payments went to the pension funds in recent times. Pension deductions were made from the salaries, but no money were transferred to the retirement fund. Generally speaking, we carry on these fruitless discussions with our management for a long time already. A district public prosecutor said to intervene and said that the kindergarten issue is a complete mess. The inspection authority revealed that the facility operated without a license for the last year and its principal had no higher education. Violations included the lack of educational service license for 2011, and it was revealed that the principal had no teaching degree, which is illegal. The education system of Chernorezskaya village has already faced criticism before. Last October, 16-year-old Alexander Divin, a local school student, died after having a conversation with his teacher. Half a year later, the tragedy is still unresolved. The head of the local education department was dismissed following the scandal. As for the kindergarten principal, she was fired as well, and her fate will be decided after completion of the investigation.
This is all we have time for now. Thank you for watching and goodbye.